Longevity Junkie, it's time to get your fix. I'm Nikki Lee.
I'm Buck Joffrey.
And today we talk with Dr. Ben Thompson, respected expert in audiology and founder of Treble Health, about his pioneering work helping people manage tinnitus, also tinnitus, and hearing loss through evidence-based approaches. We also have a new kind of blood test that could be better at measuring the biological age. But first, let's catch up. How you doing, Buck?
Good. You say tinnitus, I say tinnitus.
True. I mean, I was looking it up and yeah, I even talked to like Gemini or something about it. And I was like, wait, are we saying the same thing? So yeah, I had to learn that too.
No, I think there's a few different pronunciations, but
probably.
Yeah. Hey, so what do you do? Is that where you're in Tahoe?
I am. I'm in Lake Tahoe. I'm volunteering at, it's called Renovation Foundation. It's a child's foundation with Jeremy Renner.
That's right.
Yeah, most people would know Jeremy Renner. Some people might not. He might know him as Hawkeye or Mayor of Kingstown. But yeah, he has a children's foundation, and I'm out here volunteering at this summer camp with all these kids. And these kids specifically, I found out because it started yesterday, they're all foster kids. So it's so beautiful, like having them be able to be free, because all these foster kids are always told no a lot, or they're, like they're not able to really have like a fulfilling life of activity and trying new things and stuff. They're really like bogged down by the system and things like that. So it's so nice to see these kids just kind of get free and just run around and get creative and just see how their mind works. So I'm having a great time. So right after this ends, literally as this ends, I am going straight over there because it's not very far. It's like right down the street. Yeah. I'm very excited for it.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Well,
yeah, Lake Tahoe's beautiful. So, but are you doing anything?
No, not really. I mean, well, actually, we're leaving. I think we mentioned another show already, but it was the Mexico City plan.
Oh yeah.
And so we're leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh.
So that should be good. We're gonna be there over the 4th of July, which is probably not very patriotic.
Yeah. What the hell, man?
Yeah, I
Who
know.
Are you?
I know. Normally, I love the 4th of July.
Oh, I love the 4th.
I'm extremely patriotic. I get kind of annoyed when people when people poo-poo it. But I'm a big fan. So anyway, what do we got? What do we got? You got some sort of an article here or something to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, and I have so many different ways of like biological testing or these age testing that we've been seeing, but there's a new kind of blood test that's pretty revolutionary. It's offering one of the most precise longevity tools yet. So the ability to estimate the biological age of our individual organs, like our heart, brain, liver, kidneys, immune system, and more using proteomics. Developed by researchers at Stanford, Harvard, and Global Longevity Clinics, this test measures thousands of proteins in the blood to detect how each organ is aging in real time. Unlike epigenetic clocks, which assesses overall biological age, this method gives a dynamic, organ-specific readout. It's already revealing that roughly 20% of healthy adults have at least one organ aging faster than the rest, dramatically increasing the risk of disease and premature death. Accelerated immune aging, for example, may predict dementia more accurately than brain age itself. The test can forecast risk for over 30 age-related diseases and is being used in cutting-edge clinics to personalize interventions like lifestyle changes, targeted supplements, and early therapies. The cost is right now about $400 to $800, but it's expected to drop with broader use, as everything else. And as neuroscience gains traction, this test marks a major leap towards precision aging prevention, turning longevity science into real actionable care, which I'm very excited about. That's really cool. That's really
I mean,
cool.
I'll just tell you, I'm a little, I'm not gonna say I get too excited about this because it's, well, here's the thing. Okay, so I know, like somebody has to keep it real here. Okay.
I'm so excited for this. That is real.
Okay, so here's the issue. So epigenetic clocks versus, so what are epigenetic clocks? Okay, this is not an epigenetic clock, and I'll get to that in a second. epigenetic clocks are basically looking at your DNA and seeing the amount of damage that's happened to your DNA over time. They compare it with big machine learning, and if you're 40 years old and your DNA damage in your epigenome looks like somebody who's 70, then that's your biological age 70, right? The problem even with epigenetic tests, it's a great concept, and I think it's something in the future that's going to be more useful. But it's turned out to be, I'm going to use these terms and explain them, neither accurate nor specific. Okay. Accuracy is like what it sounds like. I mean, if you're truly a certain biological age, the problem is that these things are not terribly good at telling you exactly what they are, and they're neither that nor they're specific. So, for example, let's take, you had three of the same biological tests. Okay, one of the major brands, same brand, and you took them all in the same day or the day after. You're very likely to get three very different outcomes. That's the problem with epigenetic testing right now. And
I feel like I want to do that now.
Proteomics.
I want to do that.
You want to do it? Do it. Do it.
Like do 3 in a row or like at the same time, and like this would be really interesting.
Do them 3 days, or do 3 consecutive days, because you're not going to have a difference of 5 years in the course of 3 days, right? But like pick a test, do it 3 days in a row, and I guarantee you're going to get very different numbers on all 3 days. So the problem with proteomics is it's not that different, in that sense that what proteomics is doing is it's basically using real-time biology, right? It's looking at protein levels fluctuating. And of course you can look at organs specifically because certain proteins are made by certain organs. So that's great. But I think it's still got its limitations. I still think you're going to still have these issues with sampling, and you're still going to have, plus minus years at a time, for any test. So the reason I bring that up is not to say that these things are not going to be useful someday. I think they're a great concept, but right now I'm not impressed. So we'll see. That's what I got to say about that.
I mean, I get it if it's not being super accurate, and that it does make sense. But
I mean, what if you got 3 tests and one says you're 5 years older, one says you're 2 years younger? I mean, so what do you believe, and what are you going to do with it? You know what I mean?
Well, true. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess it just brings.
Right, you should do it. Do it.
I want to do it. I have to find out like what are the tests? Like the only epigenetic that I think I'm aware of is Treble Health. What else is there?
There's Elysium. There's SomaScan. There's one from True Diagnostic. Olink. Shit. Yeah, there's all sorts of tests out there.
I'll have to reach out.
I know. Reach out to them. Because you've got 500 billion followers, right, on Instagram, and say, hey, let me do 3 tests. I want to do 3 tests in a row with your test to see if the numbers come out the same.
Right.
And if they don't let you, that probably tells you something, by the way. So.
Right. Oh yeah, that could be definitely a fire back. Like, oh, is it because?
Yeah. Yep. Is because it's not. Because it's not. Yeah.
Are you hiding something? Accurate nor specific? I love that.
That's right. You should totally write that.
I will. I'll be if they give me any pushback or they don't want me to do it, I'll be like, oh, is it because it's not accurate or specific? Are you afraid of comparing?
Are you afraid?
Are you afraid? I love it. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk to audiologist, educator, and tinnitus expert, Dr. Ben Thompson. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. It's time for our guest interview. It's The Breakdown with Dr. Ben Thompson. Dr. Ben Thompson is a licensed audiologist and founder of Treble Health, a leading telehealth company specializing in tinnitus and hearing loss care. With a background in clinical audiology and patient-centered treatment, Dr. Thompson is widely recognized for his innovative, evidence-based approach to managing tinnitus, and he has helped thousands of people worldwide improve their quality of life through personalized sound therapy and expert guidance. A passionate educator and advocate, Dr. Thompson bridges clinical expertise with accessible care to empower those struggling with hearing challenges. Welcome to the show, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
I'm super excited to learn about healing with hearing, because I've had some, family members hard of hearing, and then it just definitely reflects in how they show up in life. So this is going to be, for me, very interesting to kind of get down to the basics and things like that. So starting with the basics, what exactly is tinnitus, and why is it often dismissed and misunderstood by both healthcare providers and patients, actually?
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. So tinnitus is ringing or hissing in the ears. And at the basic level, it's a phantom sound created in the brain. It starts in the ear typically with hearing loss or changes to the hearing system, but it manifests and can be found in the auditory brain. And just like a phantom limb, the individual can still sometimes feel the sensory nerve signals of a hand, even though they don't have an arm. Someone can hear the sound of tinnitus, even though those cells in the hearing system aren't actually sending signal through. So it's a phantom sound.
Well, maybe you could talk about, before we get into that, it's probably helpful for people to understand the concept of presbycusis. Well, why don't you tell us what that is and, how it ultimately feeds into ringing in the ears, which we're going to call tinnitus?
Absolutely. Presbycusis is the natural decline of hearing as we age. And I recently spoke with a researcher, Dr. James Hall, and he shared that our most current understanding of changes to our hearing function as we age, that it may have less to do with age and more due to the amount of years of noise exposure we have, suggesting that we can actually preserve our hearing, which currently there is no cure for restoring the cells of hearing loss. So if we can restore the hearing by limiting our loud noise exposure, it's current understanding is suggesting that that's actually a way to preserve our hearing as we age. Otherwise, we do know the natural aging process can decline the sensory function of hearing, vision, etc.
Right. Specifically, though, there's a type of hearing, there's a pattern of hearing loss that we typically think of when we talk about hearing loss with aging or presbycusis. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So most commonly, patients will report to me in my practice that hearing people becomes a bit harder over time. So the clarity of speech is lost. That's the tinnitus or difficulty hearing conversations in a background noise environment. Those can be some of the first symptoms of this type of hearing loss. It usually affects the high pitched tones, the high frequencies.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. It's a high frequency hearing loss is what's pretty characteristic of aging and
So we
hearing.
can't
hearing
hear
loss.
the high frequencies, you're saying?
Yeah, those are the ones
High
that
tone.
become. That's so when you look at what's called an audiogram, which is like it's a hearing test.
Mhm.
What you see very typically in people with aging is this loss in the higher frequencies. And so tell us, so how does that manifest? Tell us how that manifests in terms of people on a day-to-day basis. Now, obviously, you just mentioned one of the manifestations, which is you called it a phantom limb, which I think is a really interesting way to describe it because, Nikki, I'm just saying to you, so just so you kind of understand. So think about it this way, like if you were going to lose a part of your hearing, right,
Mhm.
and the high frequencies, your brain is essentially bringing in a sound to replace that, and that's
Oh.
ringing. So that's why he's calling it a phantom limb, which I think it's an interesting way to do.
Huh.
And all of a sudden you've got ringing in your ears that's replacing the actual, ability to hear in those frequencies. Is that a fair characterization of what of what you're talking about?
It, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, so there's millions of people that experience some degree of hearing loss. And you'd be surprised that people who say, no, I don't have any hearing loss, we actually test their hearing against the normal range. And we say, well, it's not what it used to be because it seems like it's out of the normal range. Those manifestations or signs or symptoms of hearing loss, so that everyone listening can kind of be aware of it, are difficulty understanding words in a place where there's a lot of background noise. So I go to a restaurant and
Mm,
I'm with my family or my friends. There's a group of us. There's noise in the restaurant. I'm having to ask people to repeat themselves. If I'm not
mm.
looking at the person, I'm struggling to hear them. There's a lot of cognitive load of just trying to follow the conversation because it's so complex and the signal is so hard to separate from the noise. That's a very common one. People often report restaurants or group situations, cocktail parties. Those are the hardest to hear people.
Yeah, I was actually in Vegas going to a Beyonce concert, and a friend of mine he just told me that he had tinnitus, and he was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it the concert. And he's like, but we'll all go because it was a big group of us. And I remember, like, I don't know, like 5 minutes in, he was like, he had to step out, and he was like, I can't, like, it's like too much in my ears. And we were at a concert, and I'm like, damn, that sucks. I was like, because that's
Yeah.
so fun to be able to go to a concert, but
Well, what I
apparently,
was gonna say, Nikki, is
uh,
that whole thing about not hearing in restaurants. I feel like I've got that. I feel, but the thing is, I think I've had that since my 20s and
I
30s.
I
Like,
have to really concentrate on people,
yeah,
and sometimes I
yeah.
look at their mouth, what they're saying, because like that helps me. But yeah, I have a thing too about needing to be more focused on what someone's hearing and being very dialed in.
Yeah,
So,
totally. Other things that I think are helpful for people that typically, if you're, the natural hearing loss is bilateral. In other words, it's affecting both ears. Because if you're only having problems in one ear, then you could potentially be, dealing with a more serious problem. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so most people do experience gradual changes to both ears at the same time. That'd be similar to vision loss is in both eyes at the same time. Typically, hearing loss is typically in both ears. If someone has
okay.
tinnitus, ringing, hissing just in one ear, or if they have a hard time hearing just from one side, that's definitely a good reason to speak with an ENT physician. I'm an audiologist, so we collaborate. The ENT physician works on more of potential surgery or medication, and then the audiologist will work on treatment or therapy for hearing loss and tinnitus.
Got it. Um, so you described, let's talk about tinnitus in specific. Tinnitus being this ringing, we called it the phantom noise or whatever, that like a phantom limb. So how does chronic tinnitus impact a person's stress levels, sleep quality, or even cognitive function over time?
Tinnitus, also pronounced tinnitus, and both of these can be used interchangeably. I'll say tinnitus for the rest of this podcast. So it's a very serious problem, and the tricky thing is that it's invisible. So Nikki, if your friend didn't tell you, "Hey, I actually have sensitive ears. This concert might be too loud for me," you would have never known just because you can't see it. It doesn't
Right.
visibly show. But maybe
And even to
the
relate.
yeah. Um, so really what it does is just like stress, stress can impact so many areas of our physical health, our mental health, our sleep. Well, the sound of tinnitus, a constant ringing or hissing. Imagine a loud, constant, annoying sound that's always there. Even if you try to get rid of it, it's still there. This is kind of a pervasive noise that can create stress, create anxiety, create insomnia, and unfortunately, all of the other health challenges that come from stress, anxiety, and insomnia.
I have a question. Is there a link between tinnitus and overall brain health or cognitive function as we age?
That's great. That's a great question. So there's a documented link between hearing loss and cognitive decline. Uh,
Hmm.
Individuals who have hearing loss that's significant, that is untreated, meaning they are a candidate for hearing loss treatment, but they don't get it, they are at a higher risk of, cognitive decline or dementia compared to the group that has hearing loss, it's treatable, and they get treatment, typically with hearing aids. So that research was within the last 5 years, and basically determined that treating hearing loss is one of the top modifiable risk factors for preventing cognitive decline. Not stopping it, but preventing further
preventing
cognitive
it.
decline.
It's actually a very interesting. I mean, I think we talked about this study before, Nikki, on this show. As a reminder, it was like the study where they looked at modifiable things, and hearing loss was an independent risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. But the cool thing was that if you put hearing aids on somebody with hearing loss, their risk of developing Alzheimer's disease then went back to normal, which I think is really fascinating. So it's like a very modifiable risk. If you've got hearing loss and you're elderly, get hearing aids. I think I
Oh my
remember
God.
I think I
that.
told you this because my dad won't listen to me because somebody else told him. Remember? I don't know if that rings a bell, but my dad won't listen to me because he thinks that like his nephew who says that the hearing loss will make his ears worse. He believes
Oh
him
my
instead of me.
gosh. Wow. No, well, I mean, my grandma, no longer here, God bless her soul, but she did not like that she couldn't hear, but then it went into like her stress levels, and then it went into like feeling like she's an outcast and she can't hear anything, she can't participate. So then it just made her kind of hermit more. And I feel like there's a lot of people like that who don't want to either admit that, they're aging and their hearing's going, or B, don't know, and they're, just won't even get that checked out. And then C, they just kind of they just hermit and they just kind of disassociate from life. And I think that also allows you to decline in age, because without that, as we've talked about, community and being just more active in life, it takes you out of that. So I think that whether it's a direct effect, it at least has an influence about how people, go about life with it, and how it really affects them in their day to day. But there is a common belief that tinnitus is untreatable. Like, why do you think this myth persists, and what does the science actually say about treating it?
Yeah, I'd love to share best practices for what to do for tinnitus. I did want to add a
Yes.
few points. There was a 2023 study published in JAMA, and basically it found that use of hearing aids in older adults reduced cognitive decline, by up to 50%. So a different study in 2020 out of Lancet Commission said that hearing loss is the number one modifiable midlife risk factor for dementia. So when I heard Buck say, elderly people should get hearing loss treatment, I'm like, no, Buck, everyone who has hearing loss should get
Everyone.
treatment, right? If it's very
And
mild, if
everyone
it's
should test
slight,
it out, because you don't know if you're actually, like, people throughout their life don't know if they can't hear, if they have tinnitus or anything like that.
not everyone will, need hearing aids who has hearing loss. But I think that bringing this to the awareness of people is smart to say, hey, because here's what I know. One of the biggest motivating factors for patients who come into a health clinic is they do not want dementia. I mean, like, if there's any one thing that people are really changing their behaviors to try to prevent or get ahead of, it's cognition and a healthy brain. So
That makes
this
sense.
one is kind of sneaky. Most people don't think hearing loss is connected to the brain, and the research is suggesting that it is mostly tied to the social isolation factor, where
Yes.
if I'm spending cognitive energy trying to keep up with the conversation, I'm disconnected, I'm stressed, I don't go to the restaurant anymore, I don't really hang out with as many people. So it's hard to say what mechanism is causing, the change in dementia risk, but social isolation or inclusion seems to be like the biggest thread. Yeah.
So going back to tinnitus,
Yeah.
so this ringing in your ears drives a lot of people crazy. So you're involved with a device, uses a combination of sound therapy, and I guess you also use cognitive behavioral techniques. So you want to Tell us
Yeah.
about how these work together and, how the treatment works.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I came from the lineage of doing an audiology residency at UCSF Medical Center in San Francisco, learned these methods, eventually started a practice of my own called Treble Health. We specialize in tinnitus. We've seen thousands of patients. So, I know it works from the textbooks. I know it works in the medical center. I know it's working in the practice. And the fundamental, approaches for someone with tinnitus who might think there's nothing they can do or is looking for help, the two pillars that I would start with would be sound therapy treatment. Also, we can call it sound-based treatment. And then on the other pillar, a more cognitive-based treatment. So the fundamentals of each of them are that it turns out using sound strategically, whether through a sound machine like I have right here, or through specific hearing aids programmed for tinnitus that are worn on the ears, using sound, specific kinds of sounds at a low level can mix in with the tinnitus and promote neuroplasticity, which can reduce the tinnitus signal over time. Simultaneously, there's a more cognitive approach because we know tinnitus is linked through a part of our brain called the limbic system, which affects our stress, our anxiety, our focus, our fear, and it's connected to the fight or flight system. So if we can change certain thought patterns, thinking reactions, if we can use cognitive behavioral therapy strategies for tinnitus, that also shows a lot of promise to reducing that anxiety, stress response and improving sleep function and insomnia.
Why can sound why do some sounds function as a therapy in
Yeah,
science like this?
yes. So this comes from a research protocol called tinnitus retraining therapy,
Uh-huh.
and it's been available for about 30 years. So how exactly it works is that when the brain has specific soothing sounds that mix in with the tinnitus, the brain starts to categorize the sound of tinnitus differently. Um,
Hmm.
the brain is reacting subconsciously to this to the tinnitus, to a ringing sound, in the same way that it would be on high alert of a predator or a potential danger, or a leaking a radiator malfunctioning in my house signaling danger. The brain is
Hmm.
automatically reacting to this sound inside of its own body, sending the signal of, you need to fix this problem. This is unknown. You need to run from this. You need to be afraid of this. So over time, through the treatments, we're retraining the brain to respond differently and promoting something called habituation, where the brain over time, when a signal is categorized from problematic or uh, unknown or scary into neutral, then the brain can reduce the perception and awareness and often the volume of tinnitus over time.
Is this something that's just like that you do daily? Is this something that you have to go to like a clinic for? Is this something like, like a file you can listen to? And, like what exactly is more in depth of this treatment?
Yeah. So some simple ways to get started or try it out would be using something like a sound machine playing at a low level in your home. And then a more advanced treatment would be medical devices worn on the ears.
Okay, yeah. So that brings me into my next question. A lot of our listeners are into biohacking and
Uh-huh.
optimizing every part of their health. Are there any exciting new tech tools like wearables or neuromodulation that actually show promise, in your opinion, when it comes to managing or even improving tinnitus?
Yeah, well, a few points here to bring in.
Hmm.
Number one, research on bimodal stimulation, and then number two, health tracking features in devices that are now worn on the ears. So, bimodal stimulation is a form of tinnitus treatment that combines stimulation through either the tongue or the cheek simultaneously with specific sounds going in through the ears, and the patient would undergo a treatment of this where they would listen to sound and receive mild electrical stimulation over a period of time. And that is available today, and it's being studied more and more to understand which populations of patients with tinnitus it will work best for. Um, separately, there's biotracking inside of hearing aids, as well as there's AirPods now that have hearing aid capability within them. So we're seeing
Whoa.
that devices worn on the ears have a lot more connection to our health and smart devices and tracking.
Yes, and our sleep. So with sleep disruption from tinnitus, I mean, that can be profound. Do you have a favorite strategy or tools for helping people with tinnitus to get truly restorative sleep?
Yes, great question. So tinnitus often people hear or are told there's not much you can do, or hey, just you just have to ignore it. And it's sort of missing the point of teaching people here's what you can do. Here's how to reduce it. It likely won't go away to zero, but it can reduce over time because the sound is not set in stone in the brain. It's a neurological signal, right? Nothing's permanently broken. So, um, with sleep, the research supports a protocol called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. That's well documented, mostly for just insomnia, but it works very well for tinnitus. And then what I see working well with our patients is when they combine that protocol with a comprehensive sound therapy plan for sleep. So maybe that's again using a sound machine like this. We also have some sleep headbands where there's some thin speakers inside of the headband itself.
I have that. I bought that.
Let's go. Let's go.
I haven't really used it, I'll be honest, but I bought it. Like I literally bought it. I'm one of those people. That's
Okay.
so
Okay.
funny.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're strategically
Maybe
using
I'll use it now.
sound to help fall and stay asleep. Yeah.
So
Nice.
I have a question just occurred to me. There's plenty of people out there who've got, high frequency hearing loss and, especially with aging, but not all of them have tinnitus. So what is it about? I'm curious because, we described it as the phantom limb.
Yes.
Why some people get the phantom limb and some people don't?
Yes. Great question. So there's a mechanism in our brain that connects the auditory brain and the limbic system, and it's constantly monitoring for which stimulus is important and I, Ben, should pay attention to, and which stimulus is neutral that I, Ben, don't even need to be thinking about. So the clothes on my skin, it's there if I feel for it. Yeah, they're there, but I'm never thinking about it. The feeling of, glasses on my nose, always there, not thinking about it. The sound of my breathing, if I like stop for a moment and I listen, yeah, actually my breathing makes sound. It's always there, but I'm never thinking about it. So with tinnitus, there's often an experience where someone can go from they heard some amount of tinnitus to, wow, now this is a serious problem. And that difference usually is related to someone is going through a period of stress or a period of life changes where their brain subconsciously, automatically is a little more hypersensitive, and then tinnitus creeps up in awareness. And then you layer that with, I went to a doctor, I was told there's nothing that can be done. I go online, they say there's no cure. I don't know what to do about this. No one knows how to solve this. Suddenly the problem becomes bigger and the sound of tinnitus gets
So
louder.
there's a big psychological component to this. It's not just so in other words, it's there for pretty much anybody who's trying to listen. I can listen for it and I'll start to hear something.
You're
But
right. And there was a
yeah.
research study in the 1950s that took 100 people with completely normal hearing into a very quiet sound booth, and the researchers, said, "Listen for sounds, let us know what you hear." At the end, over 90% of people said, "Yeah, I hear hissing, I heard ringing, I heard buzzing, electrical noise," but there was no sound in the room. It was just the sound of their own neurological brain, like a brain buzz. So that is there for a vast majority of people, yes.
I have a quick question going back to sleep because something just popped in my mind. A friend of mine uses a sound machine every single night and he listens to something called pink noise. Now, we've heard of white noise and all this, so I'm wondering, you're nodding your head, so I'm really curious, like, is there one that's better than the other, one that's used for something more specific? Like, he's so interested in pink noise. I was like, okay. So I'm like, I really want to know, yeah, about these different noises, like the white noise, pink noise, and if this is also part of the sound therapy that you're talking about for restorative sleep.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're probably the first person who has been so passionate about pink noise, just like me. Um, there's different types of there's different types of noises, and for the average person who doesn't have tinnitus, they would think, yeah, whatever. I'll just put on some noise. It'll help me go to sleep. Pink noise, white noise. I don't really know the difference. For someone with tinnitus, you'd be shocked at like the nuances of how certain frequency ranges can bring relief or a soothing response. So yeah, the details matter. And I mean, I have a YouTube channel that's focused on tinnitus. We have we have multiple videos that have over 1 million views that are just sound therapy. So like custom sound therapies. One of them is pink noise. One of them is crickets, specific kind of like cicadas is very soothing to
Oh,
people.
okay.
Um, and we collaborated with a sound engineer to create these custom soundscapes that are absolutely used to help people fall asleep. Often these sounds are played for, 8 hours straight. Yeah.
Now, are there, I would love to hear more. Well, actually, did you answer the like what's kind of better for sleeping, like pink noise versus white noise or
or what
any other?
exactly is pink noise? Like what? I mean, is
Yeah,
there
yeah.
There
some?
you go. True.
Yeah, the pink noise versus white noise. When we think of sound, think of a piano keyboard, bass, mids, treble. That's like a frequency spectrum or a pitch spectrum. So white noise is all the keys are played equally. So it sounds like a sound, like you're watching an old TV and there's nothing on the channel. That white
Mm-hmm.
noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pink noise has less high pitch stimulus, so it's like the treble is turned down a bit. So it's less
Oh,
sharp, it's a little warmer.
yeah. It does feel very comforting.
Yeah.
It
Is
does.
there a best sound for tinnitus retraining therapy protocol, which is the sound therapy technique I talked about? White noise and pink noise are both recommended. White noise slightly preferred. For just general sleep wellness, I don't think it matters. The person can choose whatever is the most soothing. We don't want an emotional response from the sound, so it's best to not use your favorite song or, music. Best to have
Sure.
something a little more, less emotionally
Neutral and
connected. Neutral, yeah.
yeah, for sure. I want to, for our listeners, I really want to talk about more like daily practices of preventing hear loss or yeah, hearing loss. So
Yes.
like
Mhm.
talk about maybe like do earbuds damage our hearing? Like is there a safe decibel? Or what about exposure to loud environments, concerts, traffic, construction, whatever, like what can I use for hearing protection? Things like that. I have some more, but I want to start there
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are certain occupations or jobs that are at higher risk for hearing loss. There's
Mm-hmm.
a national organization for health that monitors this. So if you work in one of those jobs, for a big enough company, your employer should give you resources for earplugs or hearing protection. If you work for yourself, let's say you have your own, construction company, you're a contractor, you're using power tools. Let's say you go to the gun range, you shoot guns, any of that type of thing. You probably have to figure it out yourself. Yeah, use earmuffs or earplugs. The most protection you can get would be foam earplugs underneath. Let them expand for 5 seconds. Take your fingers out, and then put earmuffs over the top of them.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Okay.
Well, if you go to a concert, like if people worry about concerts all the time, or let's just say it's a sporting event or something like that, where you get a significant dose of high, a lot of noise, high decibel noise. Um, is a single shot of that kind of noise enough to permanently
Mm.
alter your hearing? Or because usually what happens, you come out of those things and you can't hear for a while, and I hear some ringing, but then it goes back to normal. Can you talk about that exposure and like what the risks are and what people should do?
yes, definitely. So that phenomenon, which many people, including myself, have experienced. There was a phase where I was going to very loud EDM, electronic dance music
That's
shows
me
and
right now.
festivals. That's you?
That's
Okay,
me right now. Yeah. And
it's
I'm
fun.
like, but it sounds so much better without my ear shit in there. I'm like, no. So yes, please help me.
Okay, so that phenomenon of after the show, you know, leave the stadium. It's hard to even hear your friends, that kind of thing. Plus, you might hear ringing when you're going to sleep. It's a very common experience. That's a phenomenon called temporary threshold shift, where surprisingly, if I brought you guys into the audio booth, like to test your hearing, you would have a hearing loss. And that's kind of shocking because it shows that the ears can, almost be like temporarily damaged, but then they recover. We can't cure chronic hearing loss, but this temporary shift is an experience that happens. I don't want you to have that. I mean, that's not ideal. In my
It's not like
understanding,
exercising where you can, you exert yourself so much and then that actually is better for your body, or, you know, cryotherapy of like cold exposure extreme. Like is that not something that correlates?
I think it's something you don't want to
You just
challenge
don't want
this
it at
one.
all. I mean, yeah, true, I guess.
yeah, unfortunately, this is chronic hearing loss is not something that you can reverse.
Right,
Yeah.
but I think what she's saying is, so her question is relating to, okay, like if we go, if we challenge ourselves with heat, extreme heat or extreme cold, there's a hormetic response there, which in longevity speak is actually good for you. What doesn't hurt, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I guess what I was pointing out is I don't think that concept holds for exposure to extreme hearing or extremely loud noises for short periods of time.
It doesn't. For very loud noises, it definitely doesn't. If you're in a place with very loud sound, it is best to have earplugs. That is what research supports. That's what, the medical community supports. However, if you're kind of in the gray area where it's not so loud and you're just there once a month, that's a situation where I would recommend people try to find comfortable earplugs that are not too restrictive, so you can still enjoy the experience. I can talk about what those earplugs are. That would be ideal because you don't really want to push it in this realm. The ears are sensitive. Generally speaking, once you lose it, you don't get it back.
Well, going back to my question, I know I threw a lot at you at one point, but for earbuds, are they damaging to our ears? Because everyone's wearing earbuds or earpods or any of those things. Everyone's putting them in nowadays. So like, are those damaging us?
There is some research to suggest that younger people have higher rates of tinnitus, ear ringing. So jury's still out on whether my generation, millennial, will grow up to have significant hearing loss a decade earlier than my parents, or if there's other health risks from the constant AirPod headphone use. TBD on that one.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, for people who might be concerned about this, on the iPhone, for example, if your volume is 60% or less, then you should be fine. You should be safe. If your volume is 75% or more, then I wouldn't listen to that for more than 6 or 7, maybe 8 hours a day. So that's my general advice on the duration of use. Yeah.
Okay. And is there a safe decibel for us?
There is. Yeah. There is. Yeah. Okay. So if someone has exposure to 85 decibels for 40 hours a week, and this is mostly coming from research understanding what occupations or hobbies can cause significant hearing loss. 85 decibels, you can measure that on on your free app on your phone, sound level meter. If it's 85 decibels or worse, and you're around that sound often, I would consider using earplugs or not being around that sound so much.
Just for reference, what does 85 decibels sound like?
Yeah, 85 decibels would sound like some vacuum cleaners. It would sound like
a hairdryer.
It would sound like a hairdryer. Airplane cabin noise is more like 70 decibels.
Okay, because my mom's a flight attendant and she already has hearing loss, and she's been a flight attendant for oh my God, like 48 years or something, and she has hearing aids. She can't hear shit.
Yeah.
We always talk shit behind her back just to mess with her.
So you have multiple people in your family who have hearing loss, yeah?
Apparently, yeah, definitely. My grandma did, and yeah, my mom.
Okay.
On my mom's side. It doesn't seem to happen on my dad's side, but yeah. So is that hereditary? Is it hereditary? Oh my God, that's a great question.
Well,
Am I gonna get it?
Yeah,
hearing loss can be hereditary, definitely, but not.
Shit!
I can't say in your case whether it is or it's not, but it can be, and sometimes it is.
Not for me.
So let's I guess one last question for you is like, how, I mean, we don't really think about this. We frequently talk about getting full body MRIs and all the different kinds of things that you're supposed to do, but how often, I don't think I've had a hearing test since I was in kindergarten.
And yeah, me too, since elementary.
How often should people actually be having hearing tests, or should they just be going in when they feel like they have a problem?
My recommendation would be, if you're 60 or older, get a baseline hearing test, definitely, and probably go every 2 years. If you're younger than 60 and you don't have any symptoms of hearing loss or tinnitus, then probably just wait and go in when if you have symptoms. If you have symptoms at any age, then yeah, go to an audiologist or an ENT, ear, nose, and throat clinic, and you can get a hearing test.
What could be some symptoms to look out for?
Symptoms would be ringing or hissing sound in your ears, or people tell you that you like the volume of your TV really high, or you're asking them to repeat themselves and say, What'd you say?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need a hearing test.
Hey, yeah, no, me too.
I really do.
The hearing aids gotten less noticeable? I mean, they always used to look real clunky and
Yeah, I'll show you right now. I have some right here. Here's for those who are watching on video. Here's a modern
that
hearing
goes
aid,
up.
one that we use with our patients for tinnitus as well as hearing
Well,
loss.
it's funny because these days everybody's got something on their ear anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
So,
oh, you can't see it at all.
Oh,
You can see it there. We typically match the
Just
hair
in the
color.
back. Just in the back, like if But
yeah, but it
look,
looks
you
like
can't see it in his ear.
he looks like he's got one of those, like the little microphones,
like a Bluetooth.
like a Bluetooth thing.
Yeah, but
right?
only in the back. Like it from front and side, I can't see it. I know my mom's is very flesh colored, and like it's very much like yours, where I don't really see a lot. So there are a lot to choose from.
Is that one going in the ear canal?
Yeah, it's in my ear canal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Do they all have to go in the ear canal?
Yes. There are some, mostly yes. 95% of the time, yes.
Okay. Well, so tell us a little bit about your company and your YouTube channel and everything.
Yeah, where can we all find you?
Yeah, I have an interesting journey where I started out as a hearing loss tinnitus doctor, and then I wanted to create a YouTube channel, so went into the content creator world. And in 5.5 years, this YouTube channel has gotten 30 million views and 150,000 subscribers. So way beyond what I hoped. And
Wow, good job.
basically, during that process, we started a tinnitus treatment practice, and we have seen thousands of patients via telehealth. We're actually able to use the medical devices. We send them to the patient's house. We remote program them and adjust them, and then we provide the Zoom counseling sessions, and that treatment works very well. And then summer 2025 and beyond, we are opening brick and mortar physical locations. So San Francisco, Miami, and then a few coming in the Northeast. So that's Treble Health. We specialize in tinnitus treatment. People who have moderate to severe cases of tinnitus that really need help. That's what we specialize in.
Amazing.
Cool. Thanks
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. We learned a lot, and
Definitely.
good luck
Protect
to
your
you.
ears.
Thank
Protect
you,
your
Buck,
hearing.
and thank you, Nikki.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. All right, awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our healthy takeout. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. It's time for our healthy takeout. Well, that was really informative. I'm actually really glad we got to talk to him because, like I said, my grandma, my mom, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah, and to the extent that like it sounds like I mean it's something that you don't think about much in the context of longevity, but when you throw in the whole issue of neurodegenerative cognitive disease and Alzheimer's disease and stuff, it's probably something to take more seriously.
100%. And also if it's so close to our brain. You know what I mean? Like it's so close. So that definitely has to be something that we take care of more. I mean, we definitely take care of our sight and things like that. So, but yeah, I love that he was able to tell me a little bit more about like white noise and pink noise. And I loved hearing about the sound therapy. I think that that's pretty remarkable to be able to have our brain eventually habitually like categorize things that are safe, like to train it. Like you're literally training it to like be okay with certain, shock values, I guess. But what
Yeah.
did you take away? What was something that you really enjoyed about it?
It was a nice like little. I know a fair amount about this stuff.
Right.
I used to sort of operate in that region a little bit. And so yeah, I knew a fair amount, but it's just kind of interesting to go back and think about this whole idea of tinnitus and age-related hearing loss and the phantom limb concept. I think that's all kind of really interesting stuff. So I don't know that for me necessarily that it was too shocking stuff, but I think it's really important for people to know about these things and, just take care of their hearing. And,
Yeah, and also to know what
probably,
decibels are or like what creates
yeah,
certain decibels, and that's
yeah.
safe enough. Like I think because a lot of times we're like, oh, is that too loud or is that, we tread lightly on that.
The one thing I would take away, and I think a good thing for others to take away is because again, most people listening probably don't have a hearing loss issue, but I would just say be very, very be very careful in the people around you, the elderly people around you, because this problem gets neglected. And
Yeah.
urge those elderly people around you who need to get hearing aids to potentially get them because it's not just about their hearing, it's about their brain ultimately. Um,
Yeah. I think bringing up that Alzheimer's and dementia
yeah, scare them
correlation
into it.
is
Scare them into
yes.
it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, like when we told my grandma, like you need hearing aids, like you can't hear us. You're like we're having conversations in front of you, and I know it bothered her. It bothered her a ton. And then that's where I feel people get a little like cranky and shit, they're just
Yeah.
like, ah, I can't, whatever. Like they just get dismissive and that's, I
Yeah.
feel like why a lot of older people or some older people get grumpy and stuff because, they don't feel like they can participate and then they feel like neglected and left out. And so I know it's hard, but they're hard to get somebody to actually do that because it really is on their own will. But yeah, I think educating them that it's correlated to uh, a cognitive decline or dementia, I feel like that's definitely going to have them like shift gears a little bit faster,
Yeah.
at least
FUD.
take out
FUD.
the vanity of it. But
Yeah. Fear, uncertainty, and dismay. That's
oh,
what sells.
oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, yeah,
anyway. Well,
unfortunately,
good,
but
useful
yep.
show.
Yeah, I
You want to
loved
read
it.
us out?
Of course. Longevity Junkie is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD. It is executive produced by myself, Nikki Lee, Dr. Buck Joffrey, and Phil Ferragamo. And we're distributed by our friends at Acast. See you next time.